Have you ever just stopped and really watched a little kid?
Oh, yeah.
The way they can get completely fascinated by like a puddle
Whoa.
or a twig.
Total delight, right? Pure joy in the simplest things.
Exactly. But then, as we get older, that kind of effortless happiness,
Yeah.
it just seems to fade, doesn't it?
It really does. It often gets replaced by, well, anxiety, maybe dissatisfaction, that kind of undercurrent.
Yeah, that constant hum. So why does that happen? And is there anything we can genuinely do about it?
Well, that's what we're digging into today.
Right. Today we're taking a deep dive into the science of happiness, 7 Lessons for Living Well by developmental psychologist Bruce Hood.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission basically is to unpack why that real lasting happiness feels so fragile for us adults and maybe find some, evidence-based steps to get some of it back.
And it's interesting. The author, Bruce Hood, he comes at this from a slightly skeptical place initially.
Oh, really?
Oh.
So,
Well, he spent ages researching children, and he looked at positive psychology, saw a lot of what he called like quick fixes or wishy-washy stuff.
I get that. Lots of platitudes out there.
Exactly. But then he noticed this real spike in anxiety among his own students at Bristol University.
Ah,
And that kind of pushed him to look deeper. He actually developed a science of happiness course, partly inspired by Laurie Santos over at Yale.
oh, I know her work. Yeah.
Right. And his course just took off, became super popular. It sort of proved to him, and now through the book, to us, that science can actually offer some solid guidance here.
That's crucial, isn't it? Moving past the feel-good quotes to actual science.
That's right.
So our goal for you listening is to pull out the really key insights from Hood's work. Like a shortcut, maybe?
Yeah, sort of distill the main lessons.
Right. To understand the why behind the struggle, but also get some practical, useful stuff you can actually try.
Exactly. What can genuinely be done to live, a bit more fulfillingly?
Okay, let's unpack this then. Where does Hood start? Because you said he researched kids.
Yeah.
Does it begin there?
It really does. He argues that the roots of adult happiness or unhappiness often stretch way back into childhood.
Okay, set.
He talks about how young children are naturally, egocentric. They live completely in the present. They're the center of their own universe.
Right. Everything revolves around them.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But then, inevitably, they start bumping up against the social world, school, friendships, nowadays even social media. And suddenly they're not the absolute center anymore. They have to start figuring out that other people see things differently.
And that shift, that's important.
Hugely important. Here's where it gets really interesting, like you said. How well a child navigates that early social adjustment. It's surprisingly predictive of their happiness later on.
Wow. More than, say, grades or stuff.
Well, yeah. Hood emphasizes that while genes definitely play a part, maybe 40–50% of our happiness baseline. Yeah.
Our environment, especially those early social connections, is massive. Studies show kids consistently say their top priority isn't toys or achievements.
What is it then?
It's feeling loved and having positive, supportive relationships. That ability to connect early on. Hood says it's the single biggest predictor of adult satisfaction.
That's, foundational, really.
Absolutely foundational.
And that idea of being the center of your own world, it links to how we even see ourselves, right? Our sense of self.
Exactly. Hood brings in William James, the philosopher, who made this really useful distinction between the I self and the me self.
I self, me self, what's the difference?
So the I self is like your immediate conscious awareness, the you that's experiencing things right now, the actor.
Got it. The voice in my head deciding things.
Kind of, yeah. And the me self is more like the object of your thoughts. It's the story you tell yourself about who you are, built from all your memories, your experiences, your traits.
Ah, like my personal database. So if I'm choosing ice cream. Right. Your I self is making the choice, but it's dipping into your me self. Do I like chocolate? Did I hate that flavor last time?
Okay, that makes sense.
And Hood takes it a step further, suggesting this whole self concept is maybe a bit of an illusion.
An illusion? How so?
Not like it doesn't exist, but maybe it's not this fixed, solid thing we imagine. It's more like an ongoing, organized experience. He uses the really powerful, though tragic example of Clive Wearing.
Oh, I think I've heard of him. The musician with amnesia.
That's the one. Profound amnesia. He can't form new memories, so his me-self, his story, can't update.
God, this sounds awful.
It is. He constantly writes in his diary, "Now I am awake," because every few minutes, his consciousness resets. He has no memory of the moment before.
Wow.
Hood says he's locked in his own perpetual Groundhog Day. It just starkly shows how crucial that ability to build and access our me-self, our story, is for feeling like a continuous person, for our sense of identity.
Without that continuity, you're just adrift.
Wow. Exactly. So for most of us, thankfully, that sense of self develops gradually.
Right, babies aren't born with it.
No, they start in what Hood calls extreme solipsism. The world is just sort of an extension of them, their feelings.
And then they start to figure things out.
Yeah, a key moment is around 24 months, mere self-recognition. They finally realize the baby in the mirror is them.
Ah, the light bulb moment.
Right. And this happens around the same time they start forming proper autobiographical memories, those little stories where they are the main character.
Building that me-self.
Precisely. But even then, that egocentrism lingers. Piaget's classic experiments show this so clearly.
Like the mountain experiment.
Yeah, the 3 mountains task, or even simpler ones, like a kid hiding by just covering their own eyes.
Yeah, if I can't see you.
You can't see me. It's not them being silly, it's their genuine reality at that stage. Their perspective is the only perspective.
It's the default setting.
Hood calls it the default mode of thought. So learning to understand that others have different thoughts, feelings, knowledge, what psychologists call theory of mind.
That's a skill we have to develop.
A crucial one. It develops throughout childhood, and without it, social interaction is incredibly difficult. And that, of course, circles back to happiness because connection is so vital.
Okay, so we start egocentric.
Mm.
We need to develop theory of mind to connect.
Yeah.
But you also said we're fundamentally social.
Yeah.
How do those things fit together?
It's a fascinating tension, isn't it? But Hood argues our happiness depends profoundly on others, precisely because we evolved as a hypersocial species. Our survival depended on it.
Evolutionarily speaking.
Yeah, think about it. Humans have these huge brains relative to our body size, and that means we have the longest childhoods of any animal. We're dependent for ages.
Okay.
Plus, that big brain created a problem. Walking upright bipedalism meant narrower hips for efficiency. But big heads need to get through those narrow hips during birth. It made human childbirth uniquely difficult and dangerous.
The obstetric dilemma.
Exactly. It often required help, early midwifery, essentially. So right from birth, we needed cooperation. It fostered social bonding from the get-go. We needed the village.
Wow, I never thought of it like that. We're biologically wired for interdependence from day one.
Pretty much. And that need for connection doesn't stop after birth, obviously.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So what happens if that connection isn't there, especially early on?
The impact is, well, devastating. John Bowlby's work after World War II studying kids who were evacuated.
Yeah, separated from their parents.
Right. It just hammered home how essential those early emotional bonds, love, attachment are for healthy development.
And there were those awful studies, too.
Tragically, yes. Harry Harlow's unethical monkey studies showed that social isolation in the first 6 months led to severe lifelong problems.
Awful.
And the real-world horrors discovered in Romanian orphanages where children had minimal human interaction. It confirmed these critical periods for attachment. Lack of connection early on isn't just sad, it can fundamentally derail development.
It really underscores how deep that need runs. And it doesn't go away when we grow up, does it? That pain of being excluded.
No, it's visceral. Kip Williams did these experiments called cyberball.
Cyberball?
Yeah, people played a simple online ball-tossing game, supposedly with 2 other people, but really it was a computer program.
Okay.
And at some point, the program just stops throwing the ball to the participant. They get excluded.
Even though it's just a computer game.
Exactly. Even knowing it's simulated, being ostracized like that triggers, quote, very large and very robust negative effects on mood, self-esteem, feeling of control.
Wow.
And here's the kicker. Brain scans show that social rejection activates the same areas of the brain as physical pain.
Seriously. Like a broken leg.
Similar pathways. It's like an evolutionary alarm bell. Being cut off from the group is dangerous.
That's incredible. It's a real physical warning.
And incredibly relevant today. Think about loneliness.
It's talked about a lot more now, the epidemic of loneliness.
And for good reason. Research by Julian Holt-Lundstad shows strong social ties buffer stress. They even increase our tolerance for physical pain.
Okay.
But the flip side, that 2023 U.S. Surgeon General report, it stated loneliness increases the risk of heart disease by almost 30%, stroke by over 30%, dementia by 50%.
Good grief. Those are huge numbers.
Bigger risk for early death than obesity or smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Loneliness is literally, as Hood puts it, a solitary killer.
That is sobering, a really stark reminder of why connection matters so much.
Absolutely.
But okay, even if we are connected,
Yeah.
our brains have other ways of messing with our happiness.
Yeah.
Right? You mentioned comparisons earlier.
Yeah, our brains are comparison machines, fundamentally. From basic perception, is this louder than that, to judging food, to crucially judging our social standing.
Where do we fit in the pecking order?
Exactly, it's built in. But that comparison engine often leads us astray when it comes to feeling good about ourselves.
How so?
Well, think about the work of Kahneman and Tversky on biases and heuristics.
Mental shortcuts, right?
Right. They save energy, but they can cause predictable errors. Hood applies this to social comparison. We don't compare ourselves objectively.
What do you mean?
Remember that Olympic paradox Hood talks about from the '92 Barcelona Games?
Oh yeah, the silver medalist being less happy than the bronze.
Exactly. Seems totally backwards, right?
Yeah, silver's better.
But the silver medalists were often comparing upwards, I almost got gold, while the bronze medalists were comparing downwards, wow, I actually got a medal, I wasn't expecting anything.
So it's about the direction of comparison, who you choose to measure yourself against.
Precisely. We select our comparisons, and often we pick ones that make us feel inadequate.
And social media just pours gasoline on that fire, doesn't it?
Oh, massively. It's practically designed for it. Everyone's posting their highlight reel, their flattering profile.
Yeah, the perfect vacation, the amazing job.
Right. It creates these totally unrealistic benchmarks and fuels this constant popularity arms race, as Hood calls it. It drives envy, inadequacy, especially, the research suggests, for adolescents at vulnerable ages.
That upward comparison on steroids.
Totally. It feeds that egocentric self. How do I measure up?
And then there's the whole getting used to things problem.
The hedonic treadmill. Yeah, that's a big one.
Explain that again.
Basically, our brains are brilliant at adapting. We adapt to good things surprisingly quickly. That new car buzz, it fades, lottery win. Studies show winners often return to their previous happiness levels relatively fast.
So the high doesn't last.
Not as long as we think. And interestingly, we also adapt to negative events faster than we predict. People who experience serious accidents often report higher levels of happiness later on than you'd expect.
We're bad at predicting our future feelings.
We really are. Hood calls it an effective forecasting error. We overestimate the intensity and duration of our emotional responses to future events, both good and bad.
So chasing the next big thing might not be the answer.
Often, no. Because the shine wears off, we just adjust the treadmill setting.
Okay, so if we adapt easily and our minds compare constantly, what about just controlling our thoughts? Especially the negative ones.
If only it were that simple. Our minds tend to wander when they're not focused right.
Mine certainly does, usually to worries.
That's common. It's called rumination. And the tricky part is, actively trying not to think about something often backfires.
Like the don't think of a white polar bear thing.
Exactly. The ironic process theory. Trying to suppress a thought often makes it pop up even more. It rebounds.
Great, so what can we do about a wandering, ruminating mind?
Well, this is where techniques like mindfulness meditation come in, and there's solid science behind them now.
How does that help?
It's about training your attention by deliberately, gently focusing on something neutral, like your breath or sounds around you. You learn to notice when your mind wanders off into those negative spirals, and you gently guide it back without judgment.
So it's not about stopping thoughts, but redirecting attention.
Exactly. And studies show this practice can actually dampen down activity in the brain's default mode network.
Which is linked to?
Self-referential thought, mind-wandering, rumination. So mindfulness literally helps quieten that internal chatterbox, shifting you out of your head a bit.
Giving the brain a reset.
Kind of, yeah. And there's another related idea, flow.
Oh, Csikszentmihalyi's concept, being in the zone.
That's the one. Those moments where you're completely absorbed in an activity, the challenge perfectly matches your skill level.
Like playing music or coding or rock climbing.
Anything where you lose track of time. In those flow states, that egocentric self just disappears. You're fully present, immersed. And that's a powerful source of happiness.
Okay, so we've got our egocentric nature, our deep need for connection, these tricky brain biases like comparison and adaptation, and the challenge of a wandering mind. That's quite the landscape.
It is. But the encouraging part of Hood's message is that we're not stuck. We can actively work against these tendencies.
How? What are the strategies?
A key idea is cultivating connection and deliberately stepping outside ourselves, shifting from me to we, or even just not me.
Right, getting out of our own heads.
One framework for this is Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build theory.
Broaden and build. What does that mean?
It suggests that positive emotions, joy, gratitude, interest, love, do more than just feel good in the moment.
Okay.
They actually broaden our mindset. They make us more open, more flexible in our thinking, more creative, more resilient.
So feeling good helps you see more options.
Exactly. And seeing more options and resources helps you feel better, solve problems, connect with others. It builds resources for the future. It creates an upward spiral.
A positive feedback loop, unlike negative emotions, which tend to narrow our focus.
Precisely. Fear or anger make us zero in on the threat. Positive emotions open us up.
That's a really helpful way to think about it. And it connects to compassion.
Definitely. Tania Singer, the neuroscientist, makes this really important distinction between empathy and compassion.
They sound similar.
They do, but empathy is feeling with someone, sharing their pain, which can sometimes be overwhelming, lead to distress, make you want to pull away.
Yeah, empathy fatigue.
Right. Compassion, Singer argues, is feeling for someone. It's characterized by warmth, care, and crucially, a motivation to help if you can. It's less about merging with their feeling and more about wishing them well and potentially acting on it.
So it's more sustainable, maybe.
The research suggests yes. And Hood highlights that compassion training, things like loving-kindness meditation, actually boost the trainer's happiness and resilience. It feels good to feel for others.
That's interesting. Taking action helps the helper, too.
It seems so. And sometimes that action can be incredibly simple, even just moving together.
Moving together,
Yeah.
like dancing.
Exactly. Hood talks about the power of synchronicity, doing things in time with others, dancing, singing in a choir, even just walking in step. It actually amplifies pleasure, makes us feel more connected, more likely to cooperate. It subtly blurs the line between self and other. He even mentions studies where 14-month-old babies were more likely to help someone they'd just bounced in sync with.
No way. Just sharing a rhythm builds connection.
It's pretty amazing. It fosters that allocentric, other-focused perspective.
Which is kind of the opposite of what social media often does.
Exactly. The digital dilemma, as you called it. Social media can connect us, obviously. But its very nature, the profile, the likes, the look at me aspect,
That's so me nature, yeah.
it often mainlines right into that egocentric, comparison-driven part of us, making us feel inadequate, especially younger people. Hood calls it a fire, useful, but potentially destructive if it just turns our focus inward.
A tricky balance to strike.
Very tricky. But there are simpler, more direct ways to connect that reliably boost happiness.
Like what?
Like giving. Hood emphasizes the warm glow of kindness
Doing good feels good.
consistently. Even small, anonymous acts. Elizabeth Dunn's research is fascinating here.
What did you find?
She gave people money like $5 or $20 and told some to spend it on themselves and others to spend it on someone else.
Okay, who was happier?
The ones who spent it on others. Buying a coffee for a stranger, donating to charity, they reported significantly higher happiness levels than those who bought something for themselves.
Even with just $5?
Even with $5, it activates the reward centers in our brain. It reinforces this idea that we are connected, helpful beings.
You know, I actually tried that once, buying coffee for the person behind me. It felt surprisingly good, almost selfishly good in a way.
Yeah, exactly. It's a win-win. And this ties into trust on a bigger scale.
Trust in society.
Yeah. Hood points out that countries with high levels of social trust, where people generally believe others are reliable and fair, where there's strong community engagement, think Nordic countries,
They always top the happiness rankings.
consistently. There was even that huge study where researchers lost 17,000 wallets in cities across 40 countries.
Wow, what happened?
The rate at which wallets were returned, especially those with money in, was significantly higher in those happier, high-trust countries. Honesty and trust are deeply linked to collective well-being.
That's fascinating. Trust makes a tangible difference.
It really does. And speaking of trust, we often distrust strangers, or at least expect interactions to be awkward.
Yeah, the default on the train is usually headphones on, avoid eye contact.
Right. We predict it'll be unpleasant to chat with a stranger, but studies, like the one by Epley and Schroeder on Chicago commuters,
they do.
they had some commuters intentionally strike up conversations, while others sat in solitude as usual, and they asked people to predict how they'd feel. People predicted they'd be happier in solitude, but the reality, those who did talk to a stranger reported being significantly happier afterwards.
So our predictions are wrong again.
Often, yes. We fear that awkwardness, that failed attempt, so we miss out on potential connection and a mood boost.
We need to be a bit braver, maybe.
Seems like it. And connection isn't the only way to get out of our heads. Solitary experiences can work too.
Like what?
like experiencing awe.
Aw, like seeing the Grand Canyon.
Exactly. Or looking up at a clear night sky, or being deeply moved by music or art. Those moments where you feel small in the face of something vast and overwhelming.
Yeah, that feeling.
It has a powerful effect. It reduces self-focus, makes our own worries seem less significant, and fosters a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves. Astronauts call it the overview effect.
Seeing Earth from space must be incredible.
Right. But Hood notes, like the hedonic treadmill, we adapt to awe too. You need to keep seeking out new sources of it.
Can't just look at the same postcard every day.
Exactly. And another way is simply cultivating inquisitiveness, curiosity.
Like kids are. Always asking why.
Precisely. Kids ask something like 70 to 95 questions an hour, apparently.
Wow.
Just being genuinely curious about the world. How does that work? Why is that like that? It naturally shifts your focus outward, away from yourself and your own internal state. It helps you see connections and find wonder.
So is that about destroying the self then?
Not at all. Hood's very clear on that. We need our sense of self. The goal isn't elimination, it's balance. It's about, as he puts it, dampening down or quietening the egocentric self to allow others to be heard.
Turning down the volume on me.
Yeah, because relentless self-focus often leads to fragile, fluctuating happiness, whereas behavior that's more selfless, more connected, seems to foster a deeper, more enduring kind of well-being.
Finding that balance between self and other.
That seems to be the core lesson.
Okay, so we've really journeyed through quite a bit today, diving into Bruce Hood's The Science of Happiness. We've seen how our childhood, our brain's quirks, our evolutionary past all shape this quest for happiness.
Deeply ingrained stuff.
But the big takeaway seems to be that lasting well-being isn't just something that happens to us, it's more active than that.
Definitely. It involves intentionally working against those egocentric defaults, cultivating that more allocentric, other-focused view.
Fostering connection, managing our thoughts, choosing where we put our attention.
Yeah, all of that. Hood really frames happiness as a practice, like fitness,
Yeah.
something you cultivate.
Right, not a destination you just arrive at.
Exactly. So maybe the encouragement for you listening is just to try one thing we've talked about.
Just one small step.
Yeah. Maybe that random act of kindness, buying that coffee, or taking a moment to really savor something mindful savoring, or actively look for something awe-inspiring this week.
Or even just talking to one stranger,
Yeah.
challenging that prediction.
Perfect. Just one small experiment in shifting perspective.
And, as a final thought, Hurd shares this moment where he found an ancient Roman coin
Oh, yeah.
belonging to Emperor Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher who really got the dangers of egocentrism like 2,000 years ago.
Wow. Talk about connection across time.
Right. And Hood describes holding this ancient coin and feeling this immense contentment, this connection to humanity. It reminds me of that famous quote from Aurelius. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts.
A timeless insight.
So maybe the question for all of us is, what profound connections, what shifts in perspective might we find if we consciously try to manage those thoughts and get out of our own heads just a little bit more often?